Hello, before we jump into this episode, we just want to say that this episode does discuss substance abuse, addiction, mental health struggles, and the intersections with neurodivergence. So please take care while listening. Hello, and welcome to another episode of WTF is AuDHD. We are Ellie and Paige, neurodivergent sisters. We were
late diagnosed sisters.
Damn it,
late diagnosed sisters, Ellie and Paige. We were diagnosed late.
And we're here to educate.
We've swapped roles because
maybe
you screwed it up.
Maybe you need to start introducing this whole ep now. Hello, we're back for another ep. And as promised, we're going to be chatting about substance abuse and the relationship between that and neurodivergence. We're going to be talking about our own experiences. We've done our own research, but we're also not medical doctors, as we've always prefaced. We don't actually know everything.
No,
and
speaking from experience.
Yeah, this is like not medical advice at all.
Yeah.
And it's genuinely just our journeys, and we just hope that if you're listening, it might make you feel seen.
Because we find that sometimes it's better when you relate to someone else's experience rather than being told by a doctor who hasn't experienced it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of shame. That's one of the first things. There's a lot of shame when it comes to substance use and abuse. And when you actually realize the root cause of it is neurodivergence, it just becomes really sad and tragic, to be honest.
It's a bit of an epiphany, and then you just look back on your whole life and you're like, holy.
Yeah. So yeah, today we're basically just going to chat a little bit about like stats and the relationship between substance abuse, neurodivergence, what we struggled with in the past, what changed our relationship with substances, where we're at now, and yeah, we'll basically just go through our personal experiences, because we really wanted to raise awareness for this in regards to neurodivergence, because it's actually a huge thing that doesn't get talked about, really.
Yeah,
it's huge. Yeah, it's huge, and it carries a huge amount of shame.
Yeah,
I was really lonely and ashamed in my early 20s about what I was doing, and I felt really lonely. I felt like I couldn't really talk to anyone. I didn't really want to talk to doctors about it because you immediately just feel judged.
Yeah.
You don't really even want it to go on your record because you don't know what that's going to do to you in the future. Like, it's just scary to admit that.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
Yeah, I just never really wanted to admit it. And then when I did, it feels like every time you go back to the doctor, they're like, oh, how's your relationship with this? And you're like, yeah, and you just feel watched and interrogated and seen. And it was just, I didn't really enjoy it. So hopefully this episode might help you feel a bit better. And we just want to, decrease the stigma on drug use in itself, because that's a whole other conversation about drug use and whether it should be a criminal act or whether it's actually a health issue in society. I believe it should be approached as a health issue, not a criminal issue.
Yes,
because I don't think that punishing
it just shames people, and it doesn't make them want to get better. It doesn't make them want to do better for themselves. They just feel shamed, unseen, and so they drink more or they smoke more.
Yeah, the irony is, as soon as you start shaming someone for it, they're just going to continue to do it, and maybe worse.
Yes, and one side note, one ironic thing that I just can't get over is the fact that alcohol is legal and things like Mary Jane and shrooms are not, yet they both are grown by Mother Earth, and both of those substances, not alcohol, both have very good positive effects when they're used medicinally and in moderation.
Yeah, and regulated.
Yeah. And then you've got alcohol, that is the most destructive drug.
Yeah.
It's the cause for most, like, in terms of like substances, it's the worst for things like domestic abuse, and it's just wild to me that is legal. But anyway, side note.
We are not anti-alcohol by any means, but we just don't understand why that's allowed to be advertised, and it's such a huge culture, especially in New Zealand. If you're listening from overseas, we have a really bad binge drinking culture here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And we don't really get why that one's okay to do when there's actually starting to be research and proven effects on things like mushrooms and cannabis being positive in mental health journeys and neurodivergent journeys. But unfortunately, in the 70s, when they had the war on drugs in America, it kind of just spread everywhere. And now that generation thinks drugs are bad and drugs equals, naughty. And
the ironic thing is that people who are against things like cannabis think that that it shouldn't be legalized. But the thing is, people that are going to smoke it or use it are going to use it regardless.
Yeah.
And so they're going to go find it illegally then, and it's not going to be regulated. It's not going to be, whereas if it was just regulated, people wouldn't feel shamed for going to get it, and it would be you'd get X amount and this is the dose you get for you because you're this and that, and I just don't like, there's such backwards thinking.
No, it is. Prohibition doesn't work. It doesn't work. They tried it in the 1920s with alcohol. It didn't work. People still found ways to drink it and make it. And so we're coming from a health perspective here when it comes to drugs. Are drugs harmful? Yes, they can be.
Can be if
Can they kill you? Yes, they can. Can they affect families and other people around you? 100% they can. We're not saying we're like, everyone should do drugs. We're not pro-drug, but we just think that the way that it's approached in society is just completely backwards. Yeah. And we wish there was more of a regulated approach to it because, like you said, Paige, people are going to do it anyway. Yeah. So let's just control what they're doing.
It. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So we just want to reduce the stigma and share our personal experiences about this. Now, I'll just start off with some stats first of all, because this is really important to understand. When it comes to ADHD, there's stats in New Zealand that they've found 50%, up to 50%, that's at least 50% of ADHD people also meet the criteria for a substance use disorder. So it's highly correlated with people in people with ADHD. It is not as highly correlated with autism. However, research and even just people that I've seen talking on Reddit, and I know that's not a research, that's not like, viable evidence.
But it's people's experiences.
Yeah, I've read a lot of comments about autistic people having substance abuse issues or using substances to self-medicate. They're just not in the stats as much. But first of all, we just wanted to state the fact that substance abuse and use is disproportionately higher in autistic and ADHD people. So the stats are higher than in the neurotypical population because there's many reasons people who are neurodivergent end up turning to substances and even secretly turn to substances. And you may know someone who's secretly doing a substance that you have no idea. I've had friends that I didn't realize were like smoking weed for years and like they were just secretly doing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, me too. Wish I'd known that. We could have done it together. But it's genuinely an issue when it comes to neurodivergence, and we'll start just by going on a few reasons why that happens. We'll go from we're going to predominantly speak from the ADHD lens here, I think. Like it's both, but we'll probably lean more heavily on the ADHD because they are the most
more sensory seeking. I'll speak for myself and experiences that, because before I knew, sorry, have I just stopped you?
No, go.
Obviously now I know I have lower dopamine, stores because of ADHD. We know that now. But back in the day, my vice was binge drinking alcohol. And so now, and I was vaping for a bit. And so I now know that I was seeking a dopamine source through substances.
Yeah. So that's one of the first reasons that people with ADHD in particular may be more prone to substance abuse issues. Because it's a dopamine seeking behavior, and it's also comes into the impulsivity that we have as well. We're very impulsive, and if we see a joint going around, we may just pick it up and put it in our mouth because that'll be fun right now, and we don't think about the consequences later. Or there's lots of alcohol here, I might as well just get really drunk.
I just be like, should we get a box? So bad. But like we just go drink ourselves silly. I'm not promoting it at all. It's just like this is the reality of what it was like. And a box of bloody DBs on a Saturday, 24 to myself. Like literally, it is wild, terrible.
Right? Yeah, that is wild. Yeah. That's one of the first reasons someone with ADHD may be more prone. It's a dopamine seeking and impulsive behavior. Another thing is that often, as we've spoken about on this podcast many times, ADHD people, neurodivergent people have mental health issues quite often, especially when they're like undiagnosed and they don't know why their brain's working the way it works. So with a lack of mental health support that they are experiencing, often turning to a drug helps them feel better in that moment and helps them literally self-medicate.
They're unknowingly self-medicating.
I was 100% self-medicating and I didn't know why. But that's one of the other reasons this happens. Our mental health is poor, so we turn to that. And often the mental health is poor because we're undiagnosed, say.
So you got depression and anxiety as a result of your neurodivergence, therefore you're using things to cope like cannabis and...
Exactly right. There's the emotional overwhelm. So I I'll just start off by saying in my early 20s, no, okay, actually what I'll say is when I was at school, I didn't really do any substances at all. I was like goody two-shoes, did not touch it.
Ali went to parties with Just Juice Bubbles while everyone else had their KGBs and Smirnoffs.
Yeah.
8% Smirnoffs. Ooh.
Yeah, and like Pulse.
Pulse? Ooh, they were...
But I went with my Just Juice Bubbles because I didn't really like the taste of alcohol. I found it really overwhelming in my mouth. I just didn't enjoy it. And so I didn't really drink that much and I didn't do any drugs. And when I went to university, I drank a bit more because that's like the culture. You leave home and it's like, woo, we're having fun. So
I got to the Outback. That's a bar in Hamilton.
Yes, I went to Waikato University. So had a bit of fun with the alcohol there, but I never really binge drank. I wasn't very good at drinking quickly. I've never been able to scull.
Pussy. Yeah. Me, on the other hand, how many do you want me to down?
Honestly, if you gave Paige and I a box of the same thing, I would probably get through like in one night, maybe 5 or 6 if I'm lucky, maybe 8 if I'm being crazy, but to be honest, 5 or 6, and you'd get like...
Oh, I think per one drink, Ali, I'm not boasting.
No.
Well,
this is not good behaviour.
It's not good, but just as like a reference, like to one drink, I'd have 2.
Definitely. Yeah. I would look over and she's already like finished and I'm like only 2 sips in. I'm like, oh my gosh.
If we ever shared a bottle of Lindau Brut Cuvée, it'd be like 3/4 to me and she's not even got through her first glass. Anyway, terrible. Sorry.
No, it's not funny. It's really
funny.
serious.
It's really serious.
It's all right.
But objectively, when you talk about it, is that the word? It's just pretty funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So anyway, what was I saying? I think I was just about to talk about, I was talking about my experience. So I didn't do any drugs. Then I got to 21 and I tried cannabis.
Sorry. I just had that sneeze. I couldn't hold it.
That was your face. I can't.
Well, I tried to not make it too loud.
Yeah, no, that was lovely actually.
But it still was quite loud.
I hope the video sees that. When I hit 21, I was introduced to marijuana and I tried it and I was like, nice. This is nice. Wait, what? Why do I feel
like you can be yourself more?
Yes. Why do I feel like I'm just being chill? Why am I relaxed? Why is my brain shut up? Oh my goodness, I just had the best sleep of my life. So all these things that happened, I was like, that's quite nice actually. Again, we're not encouraging it. No. But this is the experience I had.
And this is the reality of Ali and I. And so,
I was such a traumatized kid / young girl that I really struggled to get to sleep. I struggled to shut my brain up.
Which is, both those things are huge with women with ADHD, just FYI. I'm sure you know that by now, but...
Yeah, I was constantly overwhelmed when I got home anywhere. Brain was busy, couldn't sleep, could never relax, didn't feel like I could be myself. These are just a number of reasons. Then when I had that cannabis, and it kind of solved all those in the moment. What is this beautiful drug? No,
Plant.
It's just a plant.
Just a plant.
I was like, this is quite nice. So anyway, I was using that for quite a few years. Look,
to put it lightly.
Look, no, a lot of people wouldn't have known this, but I was from like the age of like 22, 23 till today, using cannabis every day. And I was really ashamed of it because, like I said before, I was a really good girl growing up and at school. Mum and dad never saw me as a, little druggie. And then I felt like I was so ashamed. I felt like I was this like amazing, high achieving, person who does so well at everything.
Oh, it's such a mind F.
Such a mind F. And I then went home and felt like a dirty little druggie. Like, get the ball. Like, I felt so conflicted. And I was like, why am I addicted to this shit? Like, what's going on? I just was so confused. But then I continued to use it because it helped plaster issues I had that I didn't know I had, and I didn't know why I had them. So often ADHD people will use it for, emotional regulation, shutting their brain up, helping them sleep at night, using it to mask. So like alcohol, I would use alcohol to help us mask in social situations.
And also I'm someone who feels quite deeply with everything. So it numbs you, I guess. And so it would just make me not care, I guess.
Yep, exactly right.
Until the next morning though. Yeah, and it would be like anxiety city.
This is the thing, it's all short term.
It's all short term plastering, like you say. It's not good because then you end up like reliant or addicted, or there's other health issues too. Like if you're drinking alcohol every weekend, that's so bad on your body. I'm smoking weed every day. That's so bad on my body as well, and my lungs. Yeah.
So not good, but we were basically self-harming in the form of substance abuse.
Yeah. Also, just to mention on that, already we had existing, obviously, low dopamine stores and serotonin. The ironic thing about that is that the more you use substances like that, that actually makes it worse as well. So it's just like you can't win.
Yeah, it's a spiral because
It's
you
a
end up
spiral.
needing more.
Yeah.
And the that doesn't become satisfactory, so you try and seek even more.
Yeah, and I guess that's how substance abuse and addiction sort of happens.
Exactly. It sucks. Other reasons might be due to rejection sensitivity dysphoria, like just being insecure and like low self-esteem and feeling sensitive to people and emotions, and so again you numb it with alcohol or drugs or whatever. And like your low self-esteem, like I was just like really, my self-esteem was so low, it may not have appeared that way, but it was. And so I was basically smoking weed to not be alone with my own thoughts.
Yeah,
that's actually what it was, is I would use it so that at night I wasn't stuck with my own thoughts. It was you trying to hide it from myself.
You've always sucked at being left on your own.
Oh yeah, I never want to be alone.
Yeah.
And the thing is though, I don't want to be around people because it gives me it costs me energy, but I always wanted to have someone in the room with me at all times.
Body doubling.
Yeah, all the time. I wanted to be doing my homework with mum in the kitchen. I wanted someone nearby, not talking or interacting. I just wanted them there. Now that I've got Ruby the dog, I realize, oh my gosh, shit, something like her has been missing my entire life, and I didn't know I needed a dog.
Yeah.
Because it means I'm never alone.
If you look up body doubling, it'll tell you more about.
Yeah, body doubling is basically where often ADHD people do better in situations where there's another person in the room on task.
Yeah.
Because then it makes you stay on task.
Yeah, not talking, but like both doing something together that's different. Like someone could be doing a puzzle and then I'm doing my homework.
Yeah, it's a really good strategy for trying to help people with ADHD to do tasks. We can talk about that in another episode. But yeah, I never wanted to be alone. So whenever I would smoke weed, and that would be the way I'd solve that. Obviously short term. As we said, sensory seeking, and then poor executive functioning, just like impulsivity again, not having any boundaries. So maybe being offered something and then going, oh yeah, whatever.
Oh yeah,
stuff it.
Yeah, me.
Yeah. So those are kind of like a bunch of reasons why people who have ADHD or autism or both may start using substances. I definitely was using it to numb my feelings, numb my thoughts, help me sleep, help me mask. The other thing I find is that I'm actually more comfortable in public situations when I've had cannabis. A lot of people might find the opposite. They might get paranoid and find it really like, oh, everyone's looking at me. I don't really have the same. I'm the opposite. It actually makes me unmask. And I've actually read a few people on Reddit say, because I'm like deep in the subreddits for autism ADHD. Again, this is not like proper research, but there are people in there who I relate to who say that it helps them unmask, autistic people. It helps them unmask and just like be themselves.
Yeah.
So that's another reason that cannabis really helped me. So for years, right through my 20s, I was smoking cannabis, drinking alcohol, not to the same binging extent as you were, but I was smoking cigarettes. I was vaping up until literally only like January.
Yeah.
And the only reason I was able to stop that is because I made a rule that I'm not allowed to have a vape in my mouth for the whole of 2025. I've tried to stop vaping so many times, but I always will have like a puff of someone's and I'm like, oh, that's nice. I'll have that again. And it always just lands back in my hand and I'm vaping in bed again.
Oh, that's the crazy thing about vaping as well. It's like, at least with cigarettes, you had to go outside actively. It was like a task you'd have to do. Whereas like vaping is like, you just pick it up in your bed and you lose it. So you're doing the crazy vape dance trying to panic for your vape and you can't find it.
I do not miss that stress.
I guess that's relatable. I bet that's relatable.
Yeah, I do not miss the stress of finding my vape in bed.
When I used to work in an office job, I used to go outside for vape breaks. Oh, it's terrible. I mean, I'm not trying to shame. I just felt terrible.
I know you do. You feel terrible and you feel shame. But really, what it is I've actually found my vape to be almost like a stim or like a hyperactivity thing. So it wasn't even necessarily the nicotine anymore. It was like the action of stimulation. And I found that really hard to give up. Vaping is probably the hardest thing I've had to give up. Yeah, to be honest.
That's crazy. Oh my God.
Yeah. So do you want to talk more about your substance abuse or substance issues or experiences in your 20s? Like, what did you experience?
Yeah. So my substance abuse was alcohol, binge drinking. Probably around age 22, it got really bad when I didn't have any direction in life and blah, 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 blah. As I said, I would have 24 box of export DBs, and I would also, how do I say this, proceed to a lot of weekends, buy a bag.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
Nah, we're talking about MDMA.
We're talking about MDMA, and that mine was just a complete chasing the dragon. Is that the saying?
I don't know, but it sounds good.
Like, it's just chasing the high, and it was terrible. It was just so bad for my health.
Yeah.
And I also picked up a vape around 25, 26. And then no, wait, that's not right. Probably around 23, 24. Anyway, whatever. And then I obviously went through the whole diagnosis of my ADHD. You know that story. And I shit you not, almost to the day that I was medicated for ADHD and my dopamine levels were obviously up at a reasonable level, gave up vaping like that.
Like when she says like that, I mean like that. Like one day she was vaping and next day she wasn't. And I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, it was so strange. Also stopped drinking alcohol as much. That was a bit more of like a longer term thing, but like really, like the binge drinking stopped. I started stopping doing the MDMA. And then, from ages 27 to 29, I would say didn't drink much really at all. And then Ellie and I in 2024, well, at the end of 2023, we said, all right, let's go all of 2024 without drinking a drop of alcohol.
Yeah.
So we did do that last year, made it to New Year's, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it's actually one of the best things we've ever done. And our friends also did it with us, and it was their idea actually. And we kind of jumped on quite late. And then I do not regret that at all. It was one of the best things we could have done, because what I realized is that I was drinking only to deal with the social interactions. Yeah. I don't actually like alcohol. If I think about me at 16 with my Just Juice bubbles, I never liked alcohol. And it was me masking, trying to fit in. Mm-hmm. And I then realized I'm only doing this because I find socializing stressful. I find environments and sensory things really stressful.
Yes.
So I used alcohol to numb, like you say, and get through those things. But I didn't actually ever like alcohol.
Yeah.
So to actually force ourselves to have one whole year off, it made me realize, I actually don't like this. And I can basically, it proved to me, it was a bit harder, but it proved to me that I could go and be social and I didn't need that alcohol.
Yeah.
And what I also discovered was that I realized a lot of the time when I'm going out, the thing that's actually stressing me out, as well as the socializing and the sensory thing, is actually the logistics. It's the how am I getting there? Who's going to be there? How do I get home? All the logistics stress me out. As soon as I wasn't drinking, I drove everywhere. And I cannot tell you how freeing that was, because it meant if I was at a party or wherever, yes, I wasn't drinking, but I'll tell you what, after 2 hours, everyone's just munted anyway, and it's quite entertaining to watch. But because I always have my car with me, I actually enjoyed my nights better because I knew I could leave.
You had an escape plan whenever you wanted. It wasn't like, how am I getting home? Oh, it's either $100 Uber or I have to wait till Sally leaves at 10 p.m.
Exactly, yeah.
Who the fuck is Sally? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But we really found huge benefits to that. We're not saying that you should do that and it's easy as, but we just wanted to share our experience with that. It's actually changed our habits, and now Paige and I just pretty much don't drink.
We don't really drink, yeah.
Like we didn't even want to go back to it because we were like, why did we even do that?
I know. But obviously it helps that we're medicated and we know what's going on now. Yeah. So I think if maybe we still didn't know what was going on and we weren't medicated and we didn't have good dopamine levels like we possibly would be, still self-medicating with alcohol, I think I would be. Yeah. But just going back to your point, I just want to reiterate the whole social thing for me was also why I binge drank. Mm-hmm. Like I have always found social situations very hard, awkward, weird. And so people wouldn't necessarily think that, because actually I'm quite loud and boisterous, but it's all a coping mechanism. Yeah. Like people would probably describe me as, it's either negative or positive. They could either describe me as attention seeking, or they would say I'm the life of the party, depending on how you look at me. Yeah. Either one. But it was all because I was not comfortable. And so I was just doing crazy shit to just like,
you're overcompensating.
Overcompensating, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like Paige is the one who's at the party, like on the tables, like doing the funniest dancing, like sexy dancing too.
I'll strip my clothes off.
Yeah. No shame.
No shame at all. I still don't really care. I have no shame in that. I think it's freaking hilarious. But now looking back, I'm like, it just goes to show like my true feelings and my true, like when it comes to drinking, I will be that. And I will literally, like, it's like a switch that I turn on, like not actively turn off. It's a switch that just automatically turns off, and I'll be dancing on the table. Yeah. You know, and I'll come to Ellie and be like, I have to leave right now.
It's honestly
There's
crazy.
like no in between. It is turbulent AF, and I just use all my energy.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, I can't deal with this anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, you'd think that Paige is like one of the most outgoing and like amazing life of the party people if you looked at her surface level, but really we now see that girl as a really struggling AuDHD girl who didn't feel like she fit in and was struggling every minute and every second, and overcompensated by pretending she was okay. And yeah, I just want to go back to your point though about you being diagnosed and then getting medicated. It's incredible what happens when you try like finally understand your brain and you get the medication that works for you. Again, it doesn't work for everyone, but it worked for you. And immediately, like almost overnight, those dopamine-seeking behaviors and substance abuse issues kind of stopped.
Yes. And it also, that was the start of when like my business started going really well as well.
Yeah.
Which is just sad to say really, because it's like I was so lost, couldn't stick to anything, couldn't, was trying a new thing every 2 weeks because I was, again, dopamine seeking. That was from that moment where, my life actually changed for the better.
Yeah, you're a really good example of diagnosis really changing and saving life.
And medication, which I know it's not always for everyone, but for me it worked, and I am forever grateful. I don't know where I'd be now if I wasn't medicated or if I didn't know I have what I have. I'd be pretty scared to know.
Yeah, totally. Because again, like we say, so many neurodivergent people are using these substances to cope, and then they get framed as this druggo in society when really they're not. Like, they're just trying to self-medicate, and it's really sad that
they need help. They shouldn't be criminalized. Well, in terms of like substance use, like we need to look deeper.
Yeah, there's always a why. There's always a reason why someone is abusing substances. And like I said, I carried so much shame for so many years. And when I was getting my ADHD diagnosis, the psychiatrist, we got on talking about substance abuse, and I told him about my cannabis, and he said, "Oh, Ellie, that's okay. That's really, really highly correlated with people who have ADHD, especially undiagnosed." And I just remember that was a really pivotal moment for me in that appointment, because I felt years of shame and weight just like float off me. Not because it excuses it. I still don't think that my behavior was healthy, and it's still not great. But I just realized that it's not my fault.
No.
Like, I'm not a dark horse. I'm not like the black sheep of the family that's doing these naughty drugs. Like, that's how I felt.
You never understood why you were so addicted to this marijuana, because you were never that person. So it must have been such a validating moment to be like, okay, there's my reason. There's the why.
It was so validating. And if anything, my relationship with cannabis actually got better in that moment. It was still not great, but it got better because I realized why I was doing it, and I wasn't as destructive with it, and I took more care with it. So that's kind of like an overview of our experiences with substances in our 20s before diagnosis, essentially. And if you have been listening to this and you feel seen, I really hope you do, because when I was in my early 20s, if I had heard an episode like this, like a podcast, it would have made all the difference to me, to be honest, because I just felt so ashamed of myself and so confused. But there's a lot of work to do. And obviously, we're coming from a New Zealand lens here. So if you're listening from overseas, this is from New Zealand, and we're going to be talking about like the New Zealand system and all that kind of stuff. But it's really unfortunate, because I believe that there will be a huge proportion of neurodivergent people who are arrested in prison, in the court systems, due to impulsive behavior, drug use, when really they're not bad people. They're just really misunderstood.
And trying to self-medicate,
Yeah, and struggling. And so it's really sad. And I want to eventually try and help in New Zealand, especially with helping neurodivergent people and drug use, because there's no services really in New Zealand at the moment that have neurodivergent-informed treatment. So if you do go into rehab, or you do go into somewhere to say you've got a substance abuse issue, you're treated as a neurotypical. And so the neurotypical strategies for substance abuse doesn't work with neurodivergent people, because we're abusing it for different reasons. And so we need more neurodivergent informed public health services that know the effect of ADHD, autism, neurodivergence, and substance abuse, and the link between it. because a lot of people go in there and they just end up getting punished and instead of helped, which is just so backwards.
Especially the fact that we tend to have RSD, low self-esteem already, and it's just not a good mix.
Yeah, and like people might not be even using drugs for any bad reason. It might be simply because they can't cope with sensory overload. Like that might be the only reason they're abusing drugs, and it's just simply to exist and cope with every day.
And then it spirals, like it's like a hole where like you need more to feel the same high, and then also because you're using whatever it is, like it can lead to other destructive behaviors like eating bad. Like one, I will say, after that year of not drinking, I drank this year once and realized, oh, yuck. But for the following few days, I ate like shit. So I'm just trying to make the point that like it all piles on top, and like other bad behaviors happen, or
Oh yeah, I had really bad binge eating issues. I still kind of do, but I've got better recently, where I would binge eat at night when I had cannabis, because it gives you the munchies. And so I would eat more, and I put on a bit of weight, and my health was really bad, and that was just a secondary issue I was then facing due to the mental health and the substance abuse I was going through. Also, I just want to acknowledge like Māori in New Zealand, they are like disproportionately represented in the prison systems and in the substance abuse areas, again because the strategy, like the help in place that we have, first of all, doesn't help neurodivergent people, but it definitely doesn't help Māori people. They're really lacking good support for Māori people, because their bodies are also different as well. Like they need different studies done. Just like we want studies done on women for ADHD, we need studies done for Māori with ADHD, autism, substance abuse issues. They're really missed as well. I just want to acknowledge that. We can't speak to that experience, but it's true. They're disproportionately represented in those areas. So yeah, there's a lot that needs to change here in New Zealand with dealing with substance abuse, and especially dealing with neurodivergence and substance abuse. We need addiction services to be trained in knowing about autism, knowing about ADHD, knowing how to deal with these people who are neurodivergent and also have drug abuse issues, because again, one size doesn't fit all, and we need more empathy on that. We also need to like never shame people. It's like I feel like we always punish, and when we punish, people end up ironically continuing to self-harm.
Well, it's like basic human psychology. Like when someone feels attacked and like they're doing something wrong, like they're gonna get defensive and they're gonna keep doing that. I know they need to be seen and empathized with, and then they're more likely to like open up and be, I don't know.
No, exactly right. I just don't think punishment works. And the thing is, so many people don't even go and get help for this stuff because it's illegal. Like I remember feeling like, oh, I should probably get help for like how much I'm doing this, but I didn't know how to. I didn't want to. I was too scared to. I was ashamed. I didn't know what the result would be. Like I was like, will I get arrested? Like that sounds really silly, but at 24,
you don't know.
I'm going, am I going to get arrested?
It's just going to be on my record, and then therefore, like, who knows? Like,
it's really scary, and it feels very lonely. And if you are listening to this and you have battled with substance abuse, and that can be anything, like it can be nicotine, it can be alcohol, it can be cannabis, it can be MDMA, it could be mushrooms, it could be anything that you're maybe using to help you cope through life, please try and lift the shame, because it really isn't your fault. It's actually a systematic issue, and we need way better services, way better help, and it needs to be treated as a public health issue, not a criminal issue. Because the reason people turn to drugs, it's actually most of the time, in my opinion, not because they're bad people.
No, it's like mental health, mental health, whether that be neurodivergence, or whether it be depression or anxiety or whatever the frick.
It's got such a bad stigma to it. Like people immediately assume, oh, you're addicted to drugs, oh, you're a bad person. It does not link at all. It's not true at all. And that's why, like, I was really disappointed a couple of years ago. We had the referendum here in New Zealand for cannabis, and we were voting on whether it should be accessed medicinally and whether it should be accessed recreationally. And we had a really tight, it was 48-52 banning recreational still, keeping it criminalized, which I was just gutted by, because again, such a lack of education. I think in the older generation, they think drug, bad, gonna ruin families. Which,
meanwhile, they're drinking their bottle of red wine at the end of every workday.
That's the thing.
Which is like way more destructive. Are you serious?
The
irony really coming out of their mouth. Sorry, Ellie. But it actually pisses me off.
No, it was really, it was a lack of education once again. I don't think our government did a good enough job to educate why we should be legalizing recreational cannabis. And at the end of the day, everyone's still smoking it. Like people who are using it are going to keep smoking it.
And it's going to be unregulated. It's not, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really disappointing. So where are we now? I mean, we are not really drinking. We're both not vaping. And this is not us. We also don't want you to feel like shit hearing this, but we're just saying there is hope because we're
here to help.
Yeah, we've really learned why we're doing it, what it was treating, and now we're medicated like you. I've had to go hard with no vape all year to make sure I quit it because it was really hard. I'm now actually, and now if you're in New Zealand, when we had that referendum, we did have a referendum and a vote for medicinal access, which did go through. So thank goodness for that, because cannabis does have good things about it when used in moderation and regulated. I now get my cannabis medicinally. So I'm actually getting it legally. I'm getting it through a doctor, and my relationship with cannabis is far better because what I realized personally is that it actually does help me with my anxiety and my sleep and my overthinking brain. But again, in moderation. I've been prescribed a proper vaporizer, like it's a big machine thing. Like it's. I'm not smoking joints. I'm not smoking bongs like I used to. I'm doing it really healthily, or as healthy as you can do.
It's a plant.
Yeah, it's a plant. And so I'm actually still using it. So if you're in New Zealand and you are, first of all, using cannabis to self-medicate, or you feel like cannabis might actually help you with some of your either neurodivergence or or mental health. Again, this is not medical advice, but I'm just going to tell you about my experience and how I did this and how it's helped me. So I didn't go through my GP. I went straight to Canna Plus, which is a company. There's also Cannabis Clinic. There's multiple things in New Zealand now that do this, but I go through Canna Plus. All I had to do was book an appointment. I had a Zoom meeting. What is it called? I had a Zoom appointment. And they basically told them that I'm diagnosed with ADHD, I struggle to sleep, blah, blah, blah. And I was prescribed regulated cannabis, where they're now picking the THC level for me. The THC level is the one that makes you high, but it's also the one that can help with the relaxation and all of the good benefits. So now I'm getting certain types prescribed for me, customized, regulated. Every time I have it, I know it's going to be quality. I know it's going to be good for me, because this is the other thing. There's so many different strains of marijuana, and they can do different things to you. So like some people might say cannabis makes me paranoid. Me too, if it's a certain strain, but there's other strains that don't make me paranoid. So this is why it's really important to be regulated and to be prescribed it.
Well, when you go get it from a dealer, who knows what bloody strain you get in?
That's the thing. Like little old 22-year-old Ellie looking for old Jeff on the side of the road. Like, how bad is that?
Oh my God.
Like, it's like just
Mum and Dad turning this off now.
No, it wasn't that bad. I dramatized that. But, you know.
But no, that's what's happening.
But it is. It is. People are having to go into probably riskier situations to be medicated for their brain.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm doing it. I am being moderated, regulated, and prescribed. I didn't have to go through my doctor, but I did choose to tell my doctor. I got my medical notes transferred because I did want my doctor to know. Some doctors will prescribe it, like your GP might, but some don't. Some very much steer away from it. So do your own research, but it is now available in New Zealand for medicinal use, and they do actually prescribe it for many different things, including just sleep or pain, or you just need to tell them what it is. And to be honest, they'll ask you, have you used it before? And if you've been a regular user, often they will prescribe it to you because they know that you're doing it anyway. Yeah. So it's just bringing it back into the regulated area.
Yeah.
And I don't regret it. And I now have a better relationship with it, and it still helps me, but it's the only substance I use these days. And it's mainly just at night for sleep and to calm my brain down. And I've got it doing it the healthy way. So if you do want to hear more about that, just do your own research on that, because you can actually do that in New Zealand. And don't judge people if they're using drugs. And if you are using any sort of substance to help your brain, or if you've had an issue with substance and you don't know why, maybe it's because you're neurodivergent, maybe it's because you're undiagnosed.
Any sort of mental health, you know?
Yeah.
not just neurodivergence.
Yeah. There's it's drugs can be harmful, yes, and then if they're not moderated and regulated.
But knowledge is power. This is why we're here telling you our experience, and this was requested a lot through our Google form. So I think learning from other people's experiences can be really helpful, and hopefully you can find some answers for yourselves.
Yeah.
Just the more you know.
Exactly. We just want people to understand more, and I wish that I could have told people earlier in my 20s about why I was doing it, but I didn't even know why I was doing it.
Yes.
So we just want no judgment here. We just want to understand, and if you are struggling with something like this, we see you, we are here for you, and it is not your fault. Please try and drop the shame immediately.
Yeah.
Because again, it's a systematic issue, and you can, in New Zealand, there's obviously services like 1737, which is a number you can call for mental health support. There's also the New Zealand Drug Foundation. They've got a lot of info online. They did a big study about neurodivergence and drug use, which is where I got a few of the stats from today, if you want to have a read of that. There's also Youthline, obviously. Then there's a website called The Level, which is about harm reduction. It's got harm reduction information. And don't be afraid to talk about it, because I feel like us talking about it is going to reduce the stigma and hopefully help people feel less ashamed of themselves for, just basically trying to help.
Trying to keep your brain in control.
Exactly right. And again, diagnosis can save lives, because this is the other thing that comes with drug and substance use, is that often that can lead to more impulsive behaviors, like you say.
That's the thing.
This is one of the reasons I think why the life expectancy for neurodivergent people is lower.
Yeah.
Because they're more likely to go into risky situations, maybe drink drive or get into a car with a drink driver, blah, blah, blah.
Or think it's funny to scull a whole bottle of bourbon or something. Like,
exactly
there's so many
right.
things that could just,
Exactly right. We have a lot of work to do here in New Zealand, and we need to be more understanding of neurodivergence as a whole in every department, but especially the health system, and especially when it comes to drugs. So,
you are not alone.
What song's that?
I made it up.
Oh, you are not alone. I was like, that wasn't.
No, that was not that.
Let us know if you have any questions. We've got the Google form. This was one of the subjects that was asked recently, was substance abuse, and we will continue to talk more about things that you submit. Also, please let us know if you do want a community. I had a couple people message saying they want a Facebook group, so that's nice to know. I'm going to wait for a few more people to come through. I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, because we do want a closed community that we can chat with. We're on YouTube. You can watch our videos. And also, I just want to acknowledge last week's episode. I have amended it now, so it's not actually in the audio. But if you heard the original cut of last week's episode, I did read a stat about the life expectancy of autistic people, and it was incorrect. It was actually only from one study, and I was alerted to this when it went on social media. So my apologies. But the life expectancy for autistic people is more like late 60s, 70s. Mm-hmm. However, that was just one study I accidentally conflated to everything. But yeah, the life expectancy is still lower. Yeah. That is a fact. I just got the ages wrong. So I just wanted to correct that. But it's not in any of the episode anymore. So if you go back and listen, it won't be there. But if you did hear it, just know that it's not as low as you think. And you do have more time.
We're going to be okay.
We're going to be okay, guys. Now, thanks for listening. And do you reckon maybe next week we should actually chat about our medication?
Yeah,
we haven't done that
sure,
yet.
Let's do this.
I feel like it's a good tie-in after the talking about the substance abuse and the self-medicating to now the actual medication we're taking and how that helps us, because we're on different medications, and I think that might be quite a good insight.
Well, yes.
So we'll talk more about medication next week and our experiences with that. But thanks again for listening, and we will
thank you so much. Sorry,
that's right.
I'm so awkward. I just interject in the most awkward times. All I feel like it is. You were not alone.
You're not. It's no shame.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thanks. Bye.